Welcome, one and all. This is just going to be a short segment. Going to discuss the skull of Littlefoot, which is a claimed Australopithecine, and it is the most complete skeleton of what is claimed to be an Australopithecine. It's badly mangled. It's deteriorated from water erosion. Um, they found it apart from each other. It wasn't articulated when it was discovered. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the Littlefoot claim is that it was found in the same room, even altogether, when even Littlefoot's foot was found in a box of remains that had been put into a closet. And it was basically a box of different remains that had been pulled from debris from mining that went on in the Sterkfontein caves before the paleoanthropology that went on in there. So this is called, or what it was named by Clark, was the Australopithecus prometheus, Littlefoot. It's the STW 573 conglomeration, and it's one of the better known conglomerations of these claimed Australopithecine. And like I say, it's one of seven major skeletons, if you can call them that. None of them are complete, they're all partial, but this is the most complete one. And here you have it in the red here with the red line around it, STW 573. As you can see, it's by far the most complete find they have. Even you could argue more complete than Lucy in a way, but in another way you could argue it's less complete than Lucy, being that if you reflect the remains that have been discovered, because all individuals like these are yeah, I'm having a brain fart. But yeah, so you can reflect the remains across because these animals are symmetric. Yeah. So obviously, if you find an arm bone, you can reflect it on the other one, onto the other side, and assume what they look like. So when you look at Lucy, you actually have more of what would be a pelvis, because the pelvis of the STW 573 is really badly destroyed by water erosion. And that's reflected in the original literature that surrounds the STW 573. So it is very eroded, it's badly mangled and distorted from the fossilization process. There's better bones to be found in the AL2A8-1, especially considering the pelvis. The um, the sacrum is in great condition, a little worn on the Lucy find. The AL2A8-1 is the Lucy. But here in the STW 573, there's hardly any sacrum to mention. And what there is a sacrum is like this small piece, and it's been deteriorated, as I mentioned. Now, what I'm here to discuss tonight is the skull of the STW 573 conglomeration. So we have compared the skull to several other skulls, and what we've decided is the best way to go about figuring out what kind of skull we're looking at is first the features of the skull, mainly the sutures of the skull, where the skull comes together and fuses together during development. So here's just a picture of what's supposed to be an Australopithecus or Australopithecine, and I don't believe in these animals. They're basically small Sasquatches, but they've claimed to have found one here, and we're going to look at the skulls now. Now, I've uploaded a video about this before, but I didn't really explain what I was talking about or trying to convey here. But this is a comparison of juvenile gorilla, the STW 573 skull, a chimpanzee skull, and a female human skull. because it's believed that the Littlefoot individual is supposed to be a female. So that's why we have female individuals here. The juvenile gorilla skull may be male or female. I'm not sure. And that is a CG image. And it was kind of hard to find a juvenile gorilla skull where the sutures are still viewable on it. So this one had that. And what was amazing is upon, looking at the sutures of the skull is these patterns here. So they're very different between human, chimpanzee, and gorilla. And I don't know how well you can see this, and I probably should have resized it for this video, but I'm going to do a much longer video on the Littlefoot conglomeration later. I just wanted to point out here that these sutures of the skull are in the same exact place and the same design on the juvenile gorilla skull as it is on the Littlefoot skull. So it's my opinion that the Littlefoot skull is actually a juvenile gorilla skull, given the sutures are in the same exact place. But it doesn't stop there. Like, likenesses don't stop there. Okay, so we know the sutures are the same. But if that isn't enough, you have the sutures are the same. But if that isn't enough, the mandible is also very alike. You have that boxy mandible, the ramus, or the arm of the mandible that wraps up underneath where your ear would be, so that section is very boxy, and compared to the human skull and the chimpanzee skull, these are at different angles. They're different proportions. Like the ramus, or the arm of the mandible, is much smaller. Okay, I'd say that this is more robust. It's got a more robust ramus, or mandibular arm. Okay, but the point is that this is this is a mighty good match. Even the angles of the mandible are exactly the same. As far as if you follow the contour around the backside of this mandible, it's just undeniably alike. So this is my short video just describing the skull that they discovered. Now I wanted to also talk about the cranium of this skull, and you can see here from the side view really well that this skull was badly deformed during the fossilization process, even to the point where if you take a glance at the bottom of the skull, you can see that the cranium has been pushed into what would be the jaw, the front of the skull. So it's actually been compressed, and it's probably best seen because you have the mandible in the way there, which, by the way, I'll mention in that picture, doesn't seem to line up very well with the skull. Seems a little bit wider, but we'll see. We'll talk about that another day. Here it is again, and you can see that the cranium might have been pushed forward, and that would be a very good reason for any dislocation of the foramen magnum. So that's all I had today on the Littlefoot. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for videos to come. Have a great night.